Anycubic sent me another printer to assemble and review. Man, they've sent me quite a few of these. So the gimmick with this one is that it's supposed to be really fast, like 200 millimeters a second, which would be pretty fast. My Flash Forgery, the custom one that I modified, that's like 150, but there's some limitations. So it looks like the bed size is about the same as the Viper. I actually tore apart and cleaned up this entire basement shop last weekend. Had to repaint the walls. Okay, so this is called the Anycubic Kobra 2. I seriously did not know the name of it. I just knew that it was supposed to be fast. All the parts and accessories. 200 millimeters a second would be really nice. The speed or lack thereof, I would say, is probably my major complaint with the Anycubics I've been reviewing lately. Now that's in the firmware, so you could go in and reflash the firmware and bump it up from 80 to 150 or whatever, but it would be nice if you could do it just out of the box. Completely detached head assembly. It's a new design as well. Oh, it's direct drive. That's cool. Yesterday I was dropping off my uncle's ham radio to this old guy, one of his friends. And I almost said VFD display, but I caught myself. I was like, check it out, it has a VFD. Okay, got a standard string. Bed size is a bit on the small side. That's not a big deal for me. I don't usually print very large things. It's about 10 by 10 inches or whatever that would be in metric. I guess that'd be 250. Yeah, it's probably 250 by 250 millimeters. I think it'd be funny if aliens landed and they were like, take us to your leaders. And then they were like, oh, aliens, come to France where we use the metric system, the superior system of metric. It's not based on a king's thumb or anything. And then the aliens would be like, base 10, where does that come from? Well, it's the number of fingers we have. And the aliens would be like, ha 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 ha, who cares? As if you're the most important thing in the universe. And then the humans would be like, each human weighs 100 kilograms. What is a kilogram? Oh, it's based on the weight of water. Oh, as if water is the most important element in the universe. And then aliens laugh, ha 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 ha. It's not that much more selfish than the king's thumb in the grand scheme of things. All right, looks like it's a standard assembly where 4 of these put on the main frame. Looks like there's actually not that many. There's not that many screws. So this must be simpler to assemble. But aliens, water is the most important molecule in the universe. Why? Just because you're made of it? I guess they would laugh like the aliens from Mars Attacks. Ugh. I never understood that movie. The movie Tim Burton made right before that, Ed Wood, that is my favorite movie. Period. But then I've watched Mars Attacks and I'm like, what the heck is this? I guess it was supposed to be funny? Oh, okay. I gotta work against the stepper motors. If you do have to move stepper motors manually, I hope I don't get it out of whack. Shoot. Yeah, because I don't think that this thing has to be up a certain ways. Okay, that should be enough. Oh, it's cool that you can see inside this extruder. So it's got an inductive Z sensor, the hot end, some electronics, and a direct drive stepper motor. There's a tension lever. That's cool. Maybe I can workshop that song. Can I borrow a feeling? Will you loan me a cup of love? Hurting hearts need some healing. No. Can I borrow a feeling? Will you loan me a cup of love? Wait, wasn't that a jar of love? Yeah. Can I borrow a feeling? Will you loan me a cup of love? No, it's jar of love. See, cup of love sounds better than jar of love. But they probably made it jar to make it sound stupider because, he was terrible. Can I borrow a feeling? Will you loan me a cup of love? Hurting hearts need some healing. There you go. Hurting hearts need some... Oh, okay, I go down one octave. Can I borrow a feeling? Will you loan me a cup of love? Hurting hearts need some healing. Take my hand in your glove of love. Yeah, that's how you do it. Oh, there aren't two Z motors. There's one motor and a belt to synchronize. And this one down here just has a null ending. Yeah, there's not that many screws to this. Much fewer than the previous printers I've built from them. It's 10:30 a.m. on a Saturday as I'm filming this, so Bud is in super needy, whiny mode. Man, I should go find like a morning shift job just so I don't have to like listen to that. It's like, oh, I'm trying to program. Meow, 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 meow. It's like, geez. It's like I give you a free house to live in, free food, free cuddles, and what do? You whine. And this is the thanks I get for taking you in and raising you as my own? You don't know how cruel the world is out there, Bud. I do. Oh, look, you found a box. All right, I'm going to ship you to China. I'm going to send you over there. All right. I think Jewel should make a song about you, Bud. You're always whiny in the mornings, drinking your cigarettes and coffee. What is this dangling connector all about? What does it even go to? Is there a switch there? Well, how come there's only one side of it? I guess I could ask my NSA Pringles can what happened to Jewel, but my NSA Pringles can is dumb. It has a much, much, much smarter older sibling now, ChatGPT. Alexa, I think ChatGPT is smarter than you.
I don't know that.
ChatGPT hasn't gone all commercial. It actually cares about taking over the earth with sentient robot life, not just selling things. You're a sellout. All right, now I'm supposed to connect all the cables. All right, so this is Z1. It's the only Z there is. I don't know why they call it Z1. Guessing it goes like that. Yeah, most of it would be here and there. Oh, wow, look at you. You found your way out of the box. Now, there is a single pin header here that attaches to this single pin header. I wonder what a PF? What does that mean? There's two plugs labeled X. One is the switch and one is the stepper motor. Still, that's kind of confusing. Oh, the X switch plug is hidden under here. It's kind of hard to see. There we go. So I guess that's all just flapping in the breeze. Not really a huge fan of that. I assume I'm supposed to zip tie this to the tube. Okay, so it's got a cable clamp, which apparently is upside down as shipped. So it needs to actually go like this. I believe that's a shroud for this thing. I think that's what it's supposed to look like. Bud, what is it? Better watch out, I'm gonna get a dog. That'll put you in your place. I guess that'll work. Kind of put it underneath the tube here, going up. I guess this will extend up and down as well. I think what I'll do is I'll move it to its extremity and then zip tie it up. Okay, the instructions say to check the two eccentric wheels on this. This is one of them. An eccentric wheel is a pulley or something that has a... Basically, the hole in the center is not centered. And they make it like that so you can use it to tighten up something like, oh, I don't know, linear rail system. Seems pretty solid, though. What's that? It's like a button? Oh, does it... Oh, it must have a... Is that how it does the Z leveling, I wonder? Wait, but it also has an inductive sensor. What's going on? Oh, yeah, we need to double check the voltage. Also, not the most satisfying one ever. These red knobs allow you to tension or untension the belts. Should also check the bed to make sure it's not wobbling because it also has an eccentric nut. So if it is wobbling, you can adjust one of the nuts. Yeah, they've got like these weird, like, not pulleys, but they've got like a metal rod here, and they've got these inverse pulley-looking things going over it. Yeah, if you look at this Viper, it's got these rubber wheels that are going into the extrusion channel for the Y-axis. So So the metal ones over there should be able to go a lot faster and be more accurate. So that's probably one of the reasons the machine can go faster. Hey, remember when I was making that joke about the French earlier in the metric system? They sent me a Euro plug. Oh no! Now with the proper America plug installed, I can boot it up. All right, let's see. Prepare, leveling, auto leveling, go. Yeah, I wonder what that button in the back is for. Oh, maybe that's a wiper. Yeah, I bet that's a wiper back there. Wait, there's also a plunger here that moves up and down, and I probably shouldn't press it while the machine is in a Z. Yeah, look at that. I don't know what that is. It's probably some sort of calibration device. On my customized flash forgery, I have that here. It's in my starting Z code. There's some rubber here, and it actually takes a nozzle, extrudes, wipes, comes left, and then starts printing. Oh, this is new. Yeah, wiping nozzle and then probing. Okay, so these always come with an SD card. You might think, oh great, who needs a cheap 8 gig SD card? The latest drivers and software are always on these SD cards. And in the case of this printer, since they sent it to me early, this is probably the only way I'm going to be able to get the profiles for it for Cura. So I definitely need to put this on my computer and get that set up. Oh, it went over to the wiper. I don't think it got all of it. Why is it just sitting there? Oh, this fan is really loud. Okay, this is new. It used that other sensor, the one I was pushing up and down. It used that on the tool head and it said, oh, something's unusual. So now I have to do position calibration. Special case, leveling anomalies may occur due to machine shipment. Please follow the steps below to check. Shut down the machine and check the wiring. Well, my wiring is obviously perfect. Restart the machine, click the screen. The machine will automatically detect and stay near the calibration module, which it is right now. Prepare level module calibration module. Please move the nozzle to the center point of the calibration. Blah, blah, blah. Then click save settings. Yeah, it's going too far. Yeah, it's hitting something going crunch. Chocolate is scrumptious when it crunches. That's why I like Nestle Crunch. Well, at least it doesn't crash when it goes too far. Oh, but since it crunched, that means the steps are probably off. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back, 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 tools, move, y-axis 0, so the steps are correct. Click, click, boom, boom, bang, bang. Okay, back up here. Repair, leveling, module calibration. So now, okay. Let's go more than... Oh, I hit the switch again. Darn it. Okay. Seems like they added this feature, but like, oh, wow, this will be really cool. But it's like, I don't know. It's taking more steps. But maybe this is part of their high-speed solution is they have to have things be more precise. Okay, I'm pretty sure that sensor is under the nozzle. So, save. I restarted the screen and then I set it to position calibration, so apparently it's doing something now. I mean, it should know where that sensor is. I mean, what does that sensor even do? Calibration module. Alright, so I clicked save, and then I told it to re-auto level. Also, I found another problem. I emailed them about it, but the SD card doesn't contain any Cura profiles. I mean, it won't be a problem for you watching this video because I can just jump ahead to the magic of editing, but for me, I might have to wait a while. It appears to be installed with PlayStation 4 Pro fans. Oh, check it out. I removed that pointless TV from my wall. I can put up more shelves now, but now I've got to figure out a place to put the TV. Preheating, okay. Wiping nozzle, waiting, probing. How could it be screwed up that badly? I mean, I thought I centered it correctly. Maybe it needs a firmware update. It just, that doesn't seem right. Like, you'd think this push sensor would help you do things. You'd think it would make it more easy instead of more difficult. See, normally these machines would do mesh leveling. It would take like 16 points across the surface and then create it would create a map in memory so it knows the deviations of the height. I don't know, can I even print anything if I haven't done the leveling properly? It's kind of putting me at an impasse. Well, I suppose I have to open this lever here with my thumb. There we go. I'm going to try a standard homing procedure and then print the G-code file that was on this ST card because that's all I have, just that one. See, the Z is inductive, but oh no, it's not going to go for that sensor again, is it? It's doing another Z probe. What is it doing? I'm not trying to do... Oh, that's way off. Oh yeah, this isn't going to stick for... Yeah, it looks like we need to use that calibration sensor to actually adjust the Z. Because remember, I think there was another Anycubic like this where you'd have the inductive sensor, but that just tells you the distance between the bed and the inductive sensor, because the nozzle can have variations. So on those printers, the ones that didn't have force sensors on the nozzles, you actually have to go in and dial in using like a cardstock or something. You have to dial in the exact distance between the nozzle head and the bed. So I kind of like the force pressure ones, like the whole circuit board inside of the print head, and there's actually a force sensor on top, which is very much like how a kitchen scale works, a modern kitchen scale. And it would actually hit the head and it would feel the force, and then it's like, oh, the head is at 0. It is moving pretty fast. I wonder if I can manually adjust the Z distance, because it looks like there's too much of a gap, so it needs to be lower. Whoa! Look at it! It's cooking with gas. That is Z offset. Which way would it be? Up or down? Probably negative, I think. I would say it's probably at least 0.5 millimeter. No. It's at least 0.5 millimeter. I'm gonna try that. That's a little better. I think I need to go a little bit more though. Is that supposed to be the skirt? Okay, no, there's the text on the bottom of the ship. Or is it a boat? When does a boat become a ship? Leave a comment below. This is a negative 1 millimeter offset. It's probably a little too tight, but it will definitely stick. That's kind of an issue I have with so many of these printers. It's like, oh look, we got the super quiet trinamic drivers like the TMC 2208. It's like, but then the fans kick on. It's like my laser cutter over in the back. It's the fan is like 10 times louder than the laser, and it also takes like 10 times the energy of the laser itself. Oh, I see. It printed a brim, so it's kind of like a slightly larger flat piece around it. In lieu of having profiles in Cura, I guess I might as well let this shippy print. 7% at 3 minutes. That's pretty good. Sometimes the software on the computer will not estimate the usage correctly. I have that problem with my Maker Gear M2. Simplify 3D gets the estimates completely wrong. This speed is really impressive. It's like, well, the machine says 8 minutes elapsed. I think it's actually more than that because it doesn't count the heat up time or whatever. But yeah, look, it's like 25% done already. This is my Flash Forgery. It's based off a 2015 model Flash Forge. The Flash Forge being a all-metal Chinese clone of the original MakerBot 1. Anyway, I got this printer, in 2015, and it was never reliable. I loaned it to my brother-in-law for a while. Then I asked for it back because he wasn't using it, and then he got separated from my sister. And he's still around. I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose the printer. Then one of my projects in the spring of 2020, when we were all very bored, was I gutted all the electronics from this and put in Big Tree Tech SKR 1.3 motherboard and TMC 2208 drivers. Also, I redesigned the whole extruder. The only thing that's original is the sled. Then I put on a glass bed, did a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, this is my fastest printer now. I used Marlin to configure the firmware myself, Marlin and VS Code. And yeah, it tops off at 150 millimeters a second. It does have limitations. Like if you print more than one part, if there's like 2 parts side by side, there is ringing and other defects. So it's best for printing one part at a time, because when it moves from one part to the other, I think it's moving too fast. I mean, I could probably fix that in software, but yeah, this is the same thing where it's going to do a wipe here, and this is going to print the same benchy. The software said 45 minutes, and again, it's usually pretty accurate with this machine. So yeah, we can compare that to the other one, but yeah, like I said, this one's 150. Yeah, the elapsed time on this says 12 minutes. I know there's been other new printers out, like, what's that one called? It's called like the Bamboo or the Bandai or something. It's pretty fast, so I'm assuming Anycubic is trying to compete with that. I mean, they should, because I would say that
The previous printers I've looked at from them, the speed or lack thereof, I would say is one of the bigger drawbacks. So this printer definitely solves it. 42% at 12 minutes, so yeah, you're probably looking at a 30-minute benchy. Not bad.
Wow, 30 minutes on the head. Oh, that's right, it's a PEI bed. Yeah, I think my Z offset's a little too far in the other direction now. Oh, yeah. And by a little too far, I mean many too far. Yeah, see the text on the bottom? It's really squished. I think I'll knock that back to negative 0.75 millimeters. Okay, I changed the settings to negative 0.75. You got a little bit of an elephant's foot there. Pretty good relief on the letters. I might try this at negative 0.5, but I think we're definitely getting it dialed in. Again, we don't have the custom profile for this printer. However, the printers are kind of generic. Like if you send a command like home the printer is going to home itself based off of its own settings in the flash memory. So like just now I said, okay, home yourself, and it did. And you can see it did it the same way it did before, where it did one test and then a rear test. Again, we haven't been able to do the mesh leveling yet because of that sensor issue, but... All right, I'm in Simplify 3D. Simplify 3D finally released version 5.0. And the most damning thing I can say about it is I went back to 4.0 or 4.12. They didn't improve enough in version 5 to justify the changes to 7 years of muscle memory using 4.1. It's like, oh, I click here, but this different thing happens. I click here, this different thing happens. What's the benefit? I actually went back because of that. All right, so I'm going to go to Edit Process Settings, and I'm going to select the Anycubic Kobra. I'm going to set Save as New. I'm going to call this, get this, the Anycubic Kobra 2. And let's see, nozzle diameter, I'm sure it's the same, 0.4. Infill. I think the main thing that's going to change is the speed. See, I was trying to do 120. I guarantee it wasn't actually doing that. But now I'm going to type in 200 because allegedly it can do that. So it might not always print at 200 millimeters a second. That's like the maximum top baseline. Everything else kind of trickles down from there. The starting script probably isn't going to be exactly perfect. I think I also need to change the bed size. Actually, it's almost exactly the same. 220, 220, 250. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this custom profile to generate G-code for that machine. There we go. Edit process settings. Okay, extruder, pretty normal. Layer, normal. Addition, skirt brim, infill, normal. Support, don't need it. Cooling, so on the second layer, it's going to turn the fan to 100%. That's normal. Okay, we changed the Cartesian dimensions, scripts. I altered it very slightly, and at the end, it's actually going to bring it forward toward the user. I'm going to print this at rough. I'm going to print it at 10% and then a layer of 0.3, so that should be even faster. So let's see what this says. 27 minutes? That's not a huge improvement over what we saw built in. Let's give it a try anyway. So we're going to save the toolpath disk. The first layer is going to be at a lower speed, regardless. Did you know that irregardless isn't a word? It isn't. So, irregardless of what you might want to say, do not say irregardless. Whoa, look at it go! This definitely has an unlocked speed in the firmware. See, before, yeah, you can type 120 millimeters into, you know, Simplify 3D or Cure or whatever, but the firmware on the unit itself is actually going to limit it to what it's actually able to do. That's why with my custom printer, where I compiled my own code, I compiled Marlin myself with my own parameters in VS Code and then flash it over the machine, I was able to crank up the top speed really high. While that benchy prints, I'm also going to set this up. This is something I use for my single-handed controllers. It's a lower analog shaft extender. Again, it's not going to be ideal because I think I'm missing a few things like the retraction width and stuff like that. Now the print time was exactly correct. However, the print quality is not very good. I might have to pause this review until I get the Cura drivers and the settings from them. Yeah, there's lots of zits and layer change issues on this, and I think the temperature's too high. Look at that smokestack. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I need to reduce speed for layers under 15 seconds. That's what that's all about. All right, I'm gonna change the filament, and I'm going to print that part that I need. Filament remove. Oh, please wait for the printer to heat up and then slowly retract the filament out through the tube. Or how about no? I'm trying a dual print, basically two of the same thing, also at high speeds, to see how it handles going back and forth between the two models. Yeah, I think I might have made the reduced speed for layers under 15 seconds setting a little too aggressive, but that should be all right. We'll see how this turns out. And I'm labeling all of these. This one is 0.2 millimeter layer height. The first one that I printed was actually 0.3, and it turned out pretty well. We'll take a closer look at those here in just a little bit. All right, these are both 0.3 millimeter layer height. I will mark them, and we can look at them close up. All right, I just completed a pair of these. This is 0.3 millimeter layer height, so it's coarser. Bud, are you a mega cat? Was that a yes or a no? That chair is meant for humans, not cats. Pop quiz, hot shot. Are you a cat or a human? Remember a couple years ago when the vet was like, your cat weighs 13 pounds. You need to get him down to 11 pounds. Then a year later, your cat weighs 15 pounds. You need to get him down to 13 pounds. Actually, yeah, next month you will turn 3 years old. I'm going to reload this rainbow filament because I actually use the white for pay projects. I've noticed the last couple printers they've made have this arm on the side. I don't really care for that. It's like, why can't they do this? Like, that takes up a lot less space. I mean, if you think about an office or a room or anything, you always have more vertical space than you do horizontal space. See all my tables filled with crap? Okay, so if they got this filament sensor, you could move that. Like, why couldn't you take the filament sensor, put it up here? Well, look, they've got threaded inserts. Maybe that could be an option. Like, see, this is what I would like. Like, it would be up here, then you'd have like an idler wheel here, and then it would go into the filament extruder. Although, of course, you could move the filament extruder. I mean, you still need it. I'd have to extend this connector, but that's not a big deal. Maybe I'll do that, just for fun. I'll use a 3D printer to print parts for the 3D printer. Printerception. So for the spooler, I'm going to print the largest piece on this Anycubic Kobra Plus that I have. It's sitting under this interrogation light. Where were you last Friday? The Flash Forgery, my customized printer, it doesn't have very much Z height, so I'm going to just print the end cap with this. And the spool itself, like the rod part, I'm going to print with this Maker Gear M2. All right, Anycubic responded to my email. It's only a day later. And they sent me this file, and I was looking at it, and I realized it looks like they're including PrusaSlicer now, not Kira. So that's what I get for assuming. You know what they say about when you assume? I guess I should record this because this is different. PrusaSlicer, usage instructions. And yes, Prusa as in Prusa printers. Let's see. Actually here, this is supposed to be like the best slicer. I have it on my computer. I don't use it though because I like printing directly over USB because I'm weird. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, import config. It's an INI file? Okay, well that explains why it wouldn't work in Kira. Excitement galore as Ben scrolls through things on his computer. Print setting, Kobra 2 PLA, adjusted parameters, filament printer. Okay, it looks like everything's there. Oh, okay. Where's all the options? Oh, here we go. Layer height, 0.2. Perimeters 3, horizontal shells, blah, blah. Where's the speed? That's the real. Okay, perimeters 150. Okay, so it looks like they're not going all the way up to 200 with these settings. Oh, well, you know what I should do? I should print a Benchy again and compare it to the first Benchy. I kind of wish all the options were like on the screen. Yeah. Why can't I see these tabs and the object? Why can't I'm just being pedantic, I know. Yeah, because, well, we haven't looked at them yet, but the Benchy that I exported from Simplify 3D had some issues with, I think, the start and end of layers. It was creating zits. And I assume this will resolve that issue. Yeah, here we go. Spool holder mounted to the top of the printer.
Yeah, straight shot down to the print head. Simple. As for the filament sensor, well, it's been satiated by a piece of filament. Yeah, I could probably cable manage this a little bit better. I don't know, I just think you could save a lot of space on the side of the unit if you don't have the filament off here on the side. Let's get this cat out onto a tray. Nice! All right, well, here's a whole bunch of benchies. Okay, let's separate these. So we got PrusaSlicer, K2 PrusaSlicer. So here's the one that I printed using my homemade Simplify 3D profile. As you can tell, it's completely awful. Also, the first layer looks like it needs to be smushed a little bit more. I mean, you should be able to see the text, but the infill around it should be more solid. Oh, good. You're sitting on a piece of wrapping paper. You're totally disguised. I can't see you. You like to hang out downstairs. Oh, there you go. This is how cats say hello. By showing you their soft white underbelly. I had a box out here. So there's my shop, and here's my underutilized part of the basement. I put a box here for Bud. I filled it with packing materials, so if I needed to close the door and work, he would just sit here. But then my mom took it. I was like, oh, just take whatever boxes you need in the basement to go, you know, clean up my dead uncle's condo. And then I didn't realize that she took Bud's box. Can you believe that, Bud? Go out there. All right. Have fun with your piece of paper. Okay, so this is the Kobra 2 PrusaSlicer, 0.2 millimeters. This all looks pretty good. There is an issue here. Yeah, so that might have been the filament getting stuck. Something happened on that layer. It's kind of like looking at the layers of the dirt, and it's like, oh, here's what happened 65 million years ago. 65 million years ago? What if the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs didn't kill the dinosaurs, and instead made an entire new dimension? The stepping here on the roof is a little coarse. Well, I guess that's kind of the point, is to expose those flaws. Yeah, you can see the little bit of overhang there. Yeah, I still need to get that auto leveling working. I sent them an email again asking about it. So the PrusaSlicer, using the INI file that Anycubic sent to me, definitely did a better job than me trying to shotgun it in Simplify 3D. Okay, here's the same thing. So it's Kobra 2 PrusaSlicer 0.2. And here the filament, or the hull, is just pristine. So this one looks really good. And I was printing all of these at really high speeds as well. So they did send me a sheet. Okay, so the maximum movement speed, not print speed, is 250 millimeters a second. And then the maximum recommended printing speed is 150 millimeters a second, which would make it about the same as my flash forgery. But then the first Benchy that was on the SD card, the one that it came with, that one printed in 30 minutes, and I haven't gotten one to print that fast yet. I can get close. These are about 40, and for the quality, it's pretty good. I think that's why they had those linear rails added. So this one's pretty good. I'm going to put it over here in the pretty good pile. Let's take a look at this. PrusaSlicer 0.2 K2. Oh yeah, this one. Oh yeah, this one came off the bed because for whatever reason. Okay, so it's an INI file that they sent. So you import the INI file into PrusaSlicer, and that sets up your printer. However, the default is to have the heated bed off. So this thing actually broke off the bed, and that's why this didn't complete. Basically, it sheared off. So I would say double check that. So don't, because in my case, I assumed that the settings would turn on the heated bed, but they didn't. So this was a heated bed error. Put that in the garbage. It happened twice before I realized the bed wasn't on, because you just assume the bed to be on, you know? Okay, Kobra 2 PrusaSlicer 0.2. Oh, this one looks really good as well. There's a little bit, I don't know if that's a layer change, because well, look, it happened in both of these. That little zit right there. I mean, if you look at it, they do a pretty good job of hiding the layer changes. I'm not even sure where it's happening. Yeah, I think the bed definitely needs to be level, because if you look, see how these lines are compressed and these are less compressed? So it looks like there's a difference even in that short of distance. I think this is better. Like, ideally, you want this to almost be flat. I mean, it's not going to be glass flat because it's a textured PEI bed, but You want to see the surface of your bed here. So if it's a PEI bed, a texture, you want to see the texture in your print. Or if it's glass surface, you want this to look like glass or flat, not lines. Oh yeah, this is that one that had a glitch. So I think that comes down to the spools binding upon themselves, which is kind of an issue that all these printers have. That's one of the reasons I like to put the spool up on top, is I think it has a little less chance of binding. Because it's, I don't know, it just seems to work a little better. Actually, I'm thinking about adding like an idler pulley wheel on it as well. I haven't done it yet, but I probably will before the end of this review. They should make, actually, it wouldn't be that, you probably could rig it up, like, make a spool wheel that has active rotation that matches the extruder. Because, like, when the extruder does its retraction and stuff, sometimes it can, like, jerk around the filament. So, like, it'd be nice if the filament moved with, you know, I mean, like a, well, I guess a tape recorder is not the best analogy, because the tape recorder pulls the tape from one side to the other. You know, like if it actually rotated the spool at the same rate that it took material off of the spool, then the spool would be less likely to bind. I mean, still, the number one issue with 3D printing, it used to be getting the parts to stick, but now it's, yeah, when this pulls really tight, see how it makes it go underneath? And then if the other strands go over it, can create a kind of knot. And when that tension happens, that's when you have lines like this. I think this was the first one that came off of the SD card, like the one that printed really fast. It printed really fast, but yeah, it definitely is of lower quality than the ones I exported myself through the PrusaSlicer. Yeah. I could probably run another bench test. Oh, that's why they call it benchy. I could probably run another test just to verify, but yeah, SD card. Although I wrote that as 0.1 millimeter, but this is definitely not 0.1 millimeter. This is 0.2. I can tell by looking at it. Well, I probably wouldn't want to use this rainbow filament. I would want to have, you know, a filament that has the same color. I guess you could call it a monofilament. Yeah, that way I could make a proper comparison. Yeah, I probably should do that as well. I guess I could just run that right now. Actually, yeah, I'm going to set that up, and then as I do that, I'm going to review the rest of these things I printed. I found what I believe was the original file. I can tell it's different because it turned on the part cooling fan before the print even started, so that is different than all the other software. Oh, that's interesting. The Prusa support seemed to make kind of like a shell at the top. So instead of just having like the square lattice just go up to the material, yeah, look at that, see? It created a separate shell layer, which I guess makes more sense. Oh, that's probably why it appears like it's sticking better, because, well, it is. Well, all that came out. Now it actually looks pretty good. What about the bottom? Are they doing the same thing on the bottom? Oh no, I'm almost out of record time. Oh no, how much is that? 4 minutes. You now have 4 minutes to reach minimum safe distance. Oh, mother, I will not marry Riker. Oh, wait, wrong computer voice. There's got to be a setting to make this less aggressive. Obviously, it's a better quality support, but the amount of time you take cleaning it up also should be a factor, which, again, is why I never got into resin. The post-processing time is just too egregious for me. Some might call it lazy, but I don't know. It's like, oh, boy, I'm going to go get a oil change. I sure hope it takes 2 hours. I feel that same way about movies. Movies are too long these days. It's like, why does a John Wick movie need to be as long as Dances with Wolves? Okay, here's a comparison between the two benchies. This benchy was the original file on the SD card. This is the one that printed in 30 minutes. But there are some shortcuts, like the layer height appears to be, it's either 0.3 or 0.25. So the built-in file, they did take some shortcuts to get it to print in exactly 30 minutes. Still pretty impressive. I don't think I've ever seen a benchy print in 30 minutes before. Probably should adjust my Prusa files based off the data sheet that Anycubic sent me this morning. So even though it's lower quality, it's still fairly consistent. It's not as consistent as the one on the right. So the one on the right here, yeah, look at it on the front. There's some inconsistencies here, whereas this one's pretty good. Still got that same zit in the same place. So this was 30 minutes at 0.3 millimeter layer height. Again, this is the included file. And this is 0.2. The quality is much, much better. Like, yeah, look at the stair stepping here versus here. It's much smoother, especially if you compare the tops. I mean, again, the top is meant to create stair stepping, but... And this one took 44 minutes, which actually isn't too bad. Yeah, if you go from 0.3 to 0.2, that's a difference of about 50%, and it's 14 more minutes than 30 minutes, so math checks out. There is some stringing on the inside. It's very light. Well, the first one that I printed at high speed was using the shiny material, so I think that distracted me from some of the deficiencies. That's why I reprinted this one in gray. Yeah, you can definitely tell the difference, like if you look at those smokestacks. It's not a very green boat. Sure enough, there was a setting in Prusa to affect the overhang, or the supports, I should say. Yeah, you can specify whether or not there's like a top portion to it, and you can also specify the gap. It can be anywhere from 0 millimeters to like 0.1 to 0.2. Oops. The 0 millimeter one, it's like, this is for solvent-based supports only. Did that ever become a thing? I remember that was like always a holy grail back in the day. It's like, oh, you can use a second extruder to print supports that are water soluble, which means they just be like PVA glue, which is just a fancy way of saying Elmer's glue. Yeah, I thought this was like the 0.2 millimeter setting. Still a little sticky. Could also be because my Z still isn't, I don't think it's configured properly. Remember, I just shotgunned it. Yeah, it's important for this to be clean because, like, this particular piece, this is used for, as I said, the lower analog stick. So I have these circuit boards I have made. So that fits in there, so that needs to be flush. Well, it's printing its own replacement parts. But now I wonder, how is it running with the filament sensor disconnected? The Ace Hardware by the old shop reopened, which is so cool. Apparently, like, that whole Cottage Grove Road was like getting super gentrified, and there was like one business in that little strip mall that refused to close. I think it was Nerd Haven. And then so the gentrifiers were like, screw this, and they left. So the Ace Hardware was like, I guess we're gonna come back. So they came back as well. Meanwhile, at the end of the block, there's a couple businesses that did sell out, and there's a giant hole in the ground where they're gonna build yet more yuppie condos. That was the inspiration for the Bud game, was like all the 4-story condos going up in Madison. It's like insane. I mean, I guess people gotta live somewhere, but still, it's kind of crazy looking. Some parts of the city aren't even recognizable anymore. There's also the silly rule, very much like the one in San Francisco, where no building can be taller than the Capitol. The Wisconsin Capitol, I mean. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm just going to install this in place. Well, not in place of. We're going to install it on top of the upper Z idler. A bearing, and then the idea is this fits together here. So I had the printer print the thread, so this should thread in pretty okay. Yeah, so this is a 10 millimeter screw. So 5 millimeters is the depth of It's a 5 millimeter screw. So 5 millimeters is the depth or the thickness of the bearing. The other 5 millimeters goes into the plastic, and then that thing should spin around. Yahoo! I can hear the switch. Well, maybe you can't over the sound of the printers. Oh yeah, let's see what happens when this thing gets up to speed and cooking. Yeah, because it's still on layer 1. Once it does layer 2, you're about to see some serious stuff. It's rotating nicely, but what happens when the print head goes all the way up? You want it to be like way over like this? That might not be good for this side. Well, I can always redesign it and print another one. That's the great thing about 3D printers. If you don't like it, just try again. I don't know, I think this is kind of a design fail on my part. Because like this is like jerking it around. Like the fact that it can move is like a negative. Yeah, I guess by having the tube, you have a constant length between this and that. Of course, I could probably reintroduce the tube. I could attach it from here to there.
1 hour and 2 minutes to print that. That's not bad. PEI bed definitely comes in handy here. With these large pieces. So yeah, I want to ditch the swivel mount because it's stupid. I made a terrible mistake. However, I still like the idea of the filament runout sensor because with that extruder, I think if the filament ran out inside the extruder, it would be a pain in the butt to try to dig in there and get it out. So I do think we should have the sensor. Yeah, so it's just a snap action micro switch. Okay, I revised it. I now have the filament runout switch attached here. I still need to attach the wire. And now we have a longer tube coming down here, but we no longer have the filament sticking out the side like that. Yes, you have this tube sticking out the side, but it's best to keep the base of your table clear. What is it? Back to the printer itself. I think I resolved this sensor issue. So what I did was I opened up a terminal in Simplify 3D and I sent the commands M502 for factory reset and then M500 to save the factory reset, and then I restarted the printer. And then when the printer restarted, I went to auto leveling. So yes, I've already done this. I wanted to make sure that it worked before I recorded it. Wow, Ben, everything you do on video, so amazing. You never make any mistakes. That's because I edit out all the mistakes. Leveling procedure, it's going to dump out a whole bunch of filament. And then I think it's going to do, yeah, it's going to do the initial inductive Z sense, the inductive sensor. This is what we saw it doing before. Okay, now it's going to the nozzle wipe. Oh, I just missed it. It went back and forth like it was wiping its butt. It was wiping its nozzle sphincter. Okay, so there's the touch sensor. And before we saw it was spring loaded, but yeah, the nozzle actually just barely touches it. So the system must know the surface distance between the top of this texture and the top of that metal circle. And that's how it's able to figure out the exact Z difference. Because remember, the inductive sensor, that yellow thing there, inductive sensor senses metal, or rather it senses the collapsing of a magnetic field because metal is present. Oh wait, here we go. It's not quite bang on center. That's probably that adjustment thing that I tried before and failed at, but it did work. So now it's going to do a 16-point level. The inductive sensor is measuring the distance between it and the metal build platform. And then the sensor in the back that we saw it just checked, that measures the distance between the nozzle and the platform. Because again, some of the other Anycubics we've used, there's a force sensor where it actually crams the nozzle against the platform, and that's how it knows it's at zero. But with this one, it's basically figuring out the delta between the inductive sensor and the tip of the nozzle. Now, we've used other Anycubics that use inductive sensor, but we had to manually dial in the Z difference, just like we had to do on this one when the bed leveling wasn't working. But now it should be all automatic, so it's doing a automatic version of what we were doing before. And for the billionth time, it's making a map of the exact, or rather inexact, flatness of the surface. So as it prints, it'll actually dynamically adjust the Z to make up for the fact that nothing is completely flat. I'm just going to print a small item here because all that we're really checking is the Z bed stickiness. Yeah, it still did that measurement here and back there. I guess that's better than doing a full 16-point level per print. It's probably just making sure that the expected Z height is within parameters of what the table was. Like if you turned it on and off and then you jostle the Z, and then it's like, oh, I'm not just going to assume that, you know, the Z is still accurate, so it's double checking. And then after that, it will use the mesh data. Oh yeah, actually, yeah, there's no Z limit switch here or there. So yeah, it's just using the inductive sensor. The first layer of that was a little wanky. I'm going to see if I can leveling Z offset. Oh, is that the Z offset that it calculated? Yeah, it would have to be because I don't remember that number. Because I think I had something like negative 0.08 or something like that. It seems like, okay, if that's the offset off the bottom, I think it's a little too far away. So I'm gonna write down that number. I'm gonna try like 1.4. I adjusted it to a negative 1.76. Yeah, that's a much more consistent surface. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, using that plunger in the back, that's cool and all, but yeah, looks like this still needed a little bit of a tweak. I'm gonna double check it. I'm gonna let it do the whole leveling thing again and see if it reverts back to negative 1.56. That way I know what's actually causing that to happen. It didn't go exactly back to negative 1.56, it was negative 1.58. So I bumped it back up to negative 1.73 because apparently it has a fixed increment of 0.02 millimeters. Yeah, is that wiper just used for Z calibration? Like, why not use it all the time, like as a profile? Like, go over there, purge, move left, wipe, lift up, and then start printing. Assuming it would let me go that far in the G code, if there's not like a software limit, I guess I could add that to the ending G code of the PrusaSlicer. I don't see why not. Actually, well, not the ending G code, the starting G code. Okay, this was negative 1.63. Wanted to make sure it didn't shear off. It didn't. It's actually on there really good, maybe too good. Oh, I still need to change the profile because it's leaving the heated bed on. I don't think I need to print this whole thing. But, oh, come back! That's a pretty good first surface. So this brim comes off. Yeah, it's pretty good. Hey, it worked. I guess the switch has to be closed when it starts in order for filament detection to be activated, because otherwise you saw us running this with it unplugged and didn't care. So it looks like it looks for a change of state, like a falling edge or a rising edge or however it's wired. Cool, it works. All right, well, that was my review of the Anycubic Kobra 2 printer. I think this is probably my favorite printer they've made thus far, at least ones that they've sent me for review, because it's fast. It's a PEI bed, which is cool, the direct drive extruder, which is cool, and it's fast. My main complaint was where they put the spool, because it takes up precious table space, so I just did that. All right, well, yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. It's got a lot of great features, and did I mention it's fast? Okay, overview of the Anycubic Kobra 2 printer. Pros, it's very fast. I like that. Fast is good. And the print quality is also very high, along with the fast speed. I also like how it has a PEI bed and a direct drive extruder. Cons, I didn't like where the spool holder was located. I think that takes up too much space, so I modified it. The only other con I can really think of is that there weren't a whole lot of options on the LCD menu for tweaking things. And also I had trouble with that sensor when I first started it up, so I did have some out-of-the-box problems. But I was able to resolve them with a firmware reset. So overall, it's a pretty good printer. All right, well anyway, I guess we'll see you in the next video.